Quickflix has got into administration, but what will that mean for the Aussie streaming scene?
And Ultra HD Blu-ray players are finally coming to Australia, but have they missed the boat? Welcome to Vertical Hold, the tech show where we channel surf through the headlines in search of the big picture. I'm Adam Turner. I'm here with a man who likes to buy high and sell low, Alex Kidman. We're also joined by Fairfax technology writer Peter Wells. Peter, welcome to the show.
Why, thank you lads. Thanks for having me on.
Alex, what's new in tech?
LG and HTC have revealed local pricing for the LG G5 and HTC 10 handsets respectively. Either handset will cost you precisely $1,099 when they go on sale next week, just slightly below that of competitor devices from Samsung or Apple.
Australia's national broadband network is once again being used as a political football, with the federal Labor opposition promising to upgrade parts of Tasmania from fixed wireless to fibre if it wins this year's election. The promise goes against the current government's cheaper sooner NBN mantra, which saw it abandon a nationwide fibre rollout in favour of using a mix of broadband technologies across the country.
ANZ has become the first major Australian bank to start offering Apple Pay in Australia. Previously, American Express card holders could access the service, but only if they had a card issued specifically by Amex itself. ANZ's deal includes ANZ, Amex and other credit card types in its offering. It's expected the other three big banks will follow suit directly.
The Minecraft Pocket Edition online community Lifeboat is the latest to fall prey to hackers, with 7 million accounts compromised during a data breach in January. At the time, the site's organisers opted not to reveal the breach, instead only to enforce a password reset, but details of the hack were brought to light by a security researcher. So, Alex, the ANZ decided it wants a slice of Apple Pay. What do we think?
Look, I think it's them kind of jumping on the popularity bandwagon. They're certainly obviously not the first. American Express has had it since late last year in Australia, and various people's experiments with overseas credit cards revealed that an awful lot of the infrastructure that we had could support it. It's just that the back end of the banks didn't. So I think ANZ wants a little bit of that Apple marketing halo around it. But ultimately, I think we're a bit further along the path than the States was. And as such, it's convenient, it's not terrible, it works, but I don't think it's that big a thing.
What do you think, Peter? If you were the ANZ, would you be getting into bed with Apple?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think it's kind of not surprising that, say, the smallest of the four big banks were the first to jump. This is good publicity for ANZ, and my Twitter feed today was just full of people either complaining at their own bank or saying that they were going to switch to ANZ. I can't be bothered. I mean, I have an iPhone and an Apple Watch, but a card in my wallet tends to be a lot faster. I don't see the appeal all that much. I mean, I think it would be fantastic. I think it will be fantastic one day down the track when I've got my Opal card and my credit card and the little card that gets me into work every day, all in my watch. That would be fantastic. And add in some of that Google Now smarts so that it can know exactly what card I need at what particular location. And yeah, then I'm living in the future. Until then, who cares?
Look, I mean, I'm going to call it now. The Opal card reader is the one that's still going to screw you up, even if it's in your watch.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think right now we're just too far along the kind of path where an awful lot of Australians are used to kind of tap and go payment anyway. The phone is another way to do it. That's kind of all it really sits at the moment.
Yeah, it's much more of a novelty in the US because they don't have the tap and go infrastructure that we do. So as far as they're concerned, Apple kind of invented this technology, and Apple being Apple likes to reinforce that. But here it's just another thing. It's just as easy to swipe my card as my wallet. But I've always thought it's interesting that Australians keep complaining that the banks don't rush in and do a deal with Apple. But there's an old business proverb, and I think it might have been coined by the music industry, that never let Apple come between you and your customers. I can kind of understand why the banks weren't lining up to sign up for Apple Pay. They kind of maybe wanted to send a message to Apple that we're not quite as dopey as the music executives, and you're not going to screw us the way you screwed them.
Did the music industry really get screwed? I mean, they basically, Apple and iTunes basically put an end very slowly to piracy, in the music industry. Or at least took a dent out of the major piracy. It probably wasn't until streaming, which Apple kind of missed the boat on, that piracy was really... really stopped being such a big issue. So, I don't know. I mean, I don't really understand that idea that, you can't really go into bed with Apple. The deal that they're offering for Apple Pay is actually very good. It's a much smaller rate than credit cards charge for Tap and Go, because Apple, by the fact that Apple can add fingerprint reader into the mix, it's, another factor of security that they're adding to the mix, means that they feel that they've got a little bit more security, so they have to pay less insurance, and so that's why they can offer a cheaper rate.
They're still making money out of it, though.
Yes, but I'm talking about owning the customer, which is a phrase that you'll hear people like Apple throw around and people like Telstra throw around, and there's always someone who wants to own the customer, and sometimes it's more subtle than others, but it's the one who kind of controls that relationship and calls the shots. And if I was the banks, I'd be very hesitant about letting Apple have too much say in that relationship.
I totally get that paranoia, but, right now, Visa or MasterCard own the customer, if we're talking about it in that way. I mean, the banks obviously have your account, but it's Visa or MasterCard who are doing the transaction, so...
Yeah, but you never say, I've had it with Visa, I'm moving to MasterCard. You're more likely to say, I've had it with the ANZ, I'm moving to the NAB. So I think the bank is probably, in the eyes of most people, you say the bank is the one who owns the customer. That brand is the one that the customer associates with, more than I'm a MasterCard guy or I'm a Visa guy. So Quickflix has kind of been on the rocks for a long time. It's not looking too good from a business perspective. What's the latest there, Alex?
Well, look, Quickflix isn't exactly next, but it's definitely on the bricks, as it were. If you'll pardon the joke. Essentially speaking, they've entered into voluntary administration. They're working out whether or not they can restructure and continue in business. And if you talk to their CEO, they're very bullish about this, and they're going to come backfiring. And it's all Stan and Channel 9's fault, apparently. But if you look at it from a wider perspective, most commentators in this space have kind of thought, well, this is just something that's been a long time coming. They seem to have been shrinking in the market from an early position where they were a pioneer in the online streaming space, and they had the whole postal DVD business to support them, and that's just been shrinking and chipped away by Presto, by Stan, and especially by Netflix, to the point
before it
where
was even here.
Yeah, you don't enter into voluntary administration because your business is going well, let's face it. And if I was a consumer of Quickflix's products, and right at the moment I'm not, I'd be very wary about signing up with them because, a bit like buying a Dick Smith gift card last Christmas, it might not be the best investment.
The good thing is that it's only a month-by-month thing. And they have said at this stage that they're still open for business, and they're still honouring their gift cards and stuff like that. I wouldn't be spending a lot of money on gift cards, but it's not like you lock yourself in for a long contract and then find out that you've got burnt.
This is true, but still, I mean, I'm not overly optimistic about their chances of being able to majorly restructure, whereas I think the odds of there being a massive garage sale of ex-postal DVDs sometime soon seems likely. What do you reckon, Peter?
I thought they were dead 2 years ago. I mean, I think I heard the CEO say... Yeah, I heard the CEO say that he was going to, they were going to come back fighting earlier today, and I just think he's either delusional or the most optimistic person on the planet. They're done. They're done.
I think you've got to say that kind of thing, though, when you're the CEO, when you're in voluntary administration, and in fact, when you've got shareholders you're beholden to.
You're probably obligated to.
Yeah, you can't hang your head and say, yeah, look, it all kind of sucks and we're done. Go away. Yeah. You've got an obligation to your golden parachute, if nothing else.
Absolutely. No, I totally respect him for that. But, I also don't think that you can necessarily call yourself a pioneer in an industry if you just look to what some company is doing in the States and copy the business model completely.
They were Australian pioneers. If they copied the business model
completely, they'd still be in business.
Yes, they were Australian pioneers. But they were unlucky because their biggest competitor for a long time was Netflix before it even was here. Even when they pretty much owned the space in Australia, what they were fighting against more than anything was people sneaking into the Netflix in the US. And whether or not you're cross about the way that international rights deals work, it kind of wasn't Quickflix's fault that they couldn't show you the things that Netflix could. So they kind of started with one arm tied behind their back. And this talk about them getting screwed over by Stan, which is backed by Nine and Fairfax, is a reasonable comment. Basically, in a nutshell, what happened is a few years ago they did a deal. Quickflix did a deal with HBO because things were looking okay, and so HBO bought a slice of Quickflix, and then HBO later sold that slice of Quickflix off to, I think it was Nine or one of Nine's vehicles, or somehow, so that then became property of Stan. And this slice they owned basically prohibited them from doing any major restructure or selling the business or doing all kinds of deals without paying a huge amount of money, more than Quickflix was actually worth, to the holder of these shares. So if Quickflix's argument is that they didn't buy these in any way as an investment, they didn't do anything to try and grow the business or grow this investment, they basically just ensured that they had Quickflix by the balls, and whatever happened, they were in control. And one of the deals that Quickflix tried to do with Presto, I think last year, was this dodgy roundabout deal that tried to bypass the fact that Stan pretty much could veto anything they were trying to do. So they have always kind of been behind the eight ball.
Okay, so I guess one of the other things, and this is a very common refrain that seems to come up, is this idea that Australia can't support more than, the number always seems to be 2 streaming services, which presumably means that Presto is doomed, or Stan is doomed, or Netflix is suddenly going to withdraw from the entire planet. I think Netflix is probably pretty safe, and honestly, if I was putting money on it, and I'm sorry, but Stan would seem like the smallest fish in the pond now, because Presto is, of course, Foxtel backed, and Foxtel is News Limited, is Murdoch, tentacles all over the planet, and all that business. So
yeah, I'd see it the same way.
But do you think this is accurate?
I'd say I think Presto would go down, or at least be rebranded so that there's not Presto Plus, Foxtel Go, or Foxtel Play, or Foxtel whatever the hell it's called. I mean, I think that brand has far too many options out there, and none of them are that good. So yeah,
we can agree on that. They're generally terrible.
I don't disagree.
But rebranding aside, they'll still be competing in that space.
In terms of deep pockets and good deals with Hollywood, I would back Presto before I would back Stan.
Yeah, I mean, I think more likely a merger, happens, and so it's probably one of them eats up the other one.
If only they had enough brains to do that in the beginning and listen to what everybody told them. For years, they were told that, look, the smart Netflix is coming. They're going to cut your lunch. The smartest thing you can do is work together. So they started this rubbish Freeview and pretended to be friends and stab each other in the back whenever they could. They could have launched, even the 5 networks could have got together before Netflix got to Australia, launched a joint catch-up service that didn't rely on HBB TV, but actually just worked online, and then launched a joint subscription service, a bit like Hulu in the US. They could have charged $10 or $15 a month, through which you get all your free catch-up TV, your subscription from basically Stan and Presto combined. If that had been in place before Netflix had got here, they could have done really well. But 7 and 9 hate each other's guts so much that they're happy to cut each other's throats rather than work together, and now Netflix is just going to pick them off.
I think, though, that's a bit of a simplification, because I don't think Presto would have actually been willing to give up their content, because an awful lot of what Presto gets is admittedly kind of the Foxtel offer.
Oh, yeah, but what I'm saying is pre-Presto, there should never have been a Presto or a Stan. They should have years ago sat down and said, let's create one new joint service, call it whatever the hell you want, circle the wagons, because Netflix is coming.
Yeah, at the same time, I'm a little wary and I'm a little worried about the idea of having only 1 or 2 of these services, because as soon as you get into those monopoly positions, we're back into, what Telstra did with telephony, in that monopoly position where most people are there, so they can suddenly go, oh, well, look, hey, you know how it was $11? Well, now it's $15, because you'll pay that.
Choice is always good for competition. Yes, I'll give you that. Choice is good for competition. But when your competition is Netflix, you've got to make some hard decisions.
But the thing here, though, if you leave out the sneaking into Netflix US, which obviously a lot of people do, if you just look at Netflix Australia, because I run this analysis on a monthly basis, of the 3 current, big, broad broadcasting streaming players, so Stan, Presto, Netflix. Netflix is the mob who's actually adding the least each month. A lot of people don't realise this. They're actually putting the fewest titles forward per month. Now, they bolster that a lot with their originals content, which admittedly no one else gets, of course, because it's theirs, although they'll whack the Netflix originals label on stuff they've bought in from outside, so it's not always just produced by them. But compared to Stan or Presto, yeah, they're putting up a lot less content than the other guys. And in terms of an evolving library, that means over time, in fact, the other guys are actually catching up, or I suspect, if you looked at the whole numbers, overtake.
Sorry, I just don't think that matters. I mean, I think Netflix has been absolutely brilliant in the way that they started as, the kind of the weekly video store on the internet. You know, it was nothing great, but it was all the old stuff. And from that position, they then moved into, we're going to have once a month, there'll be something that comes out that you need to see, whether it be Making a Murderer or Orange is the New Black or whatever. They've always got just one thing that they've made that you can't get anywhere else every single month that will just keep you tuned in. I mean, I don't use Netflix all that often, but there's no way I'm giving it up.
Yeah, no, look, I'm not arguing they're not smart operators, and certainly the originals is a good, big, unique hook for them. At the same time, some of the unique deals that Stan and Presto have managed to pull together have the same kind of pull. No Activity on Stan was brilliant, and I really enjoyed Ash vs. Evil Dead, for example. Both of those, only there. On Presto, they've had some of their own content and their movie stuff, because they get stuff through Foxtel so much faster. Has a lot of appeal to a lot of people.
And they had Mr. Robot, I think, who was that?
Yes,
Presto?
they did, yeah. And that's excellent. And it's, you know, they've all got their own little unique plays, but in the local market, Netflix is the one that's moving forward the slowest. And I suspect you're right. I suspect, as much as anything else, the brand of Netflix is so powerful now that it probably doesn't matter. But I do worry about what that means for the streaming future. Leaving aside, I suppose, all of those little niche players where you pay a set fee, and again, it's usually around that $10 mark, for access to a single sport or to, reality TV schlock a la Hey. It's not for
audience.
me, but they seem to have a market for it. People love watching the Kardashians. Not my thing, but if that's what floats your boat, go for it.
Some people's sports
watch all
are
sorts
different
of
to
things
others.
that other people would think were weird, and I don't get why Australians watch sport, as most regular listeners would know. So, I'm an oddity unto myself. But those little niche players, I think, are also kind of interesting in this argument, because they service areas that the Netflix, Prestos and Stans have bite-sized pieces of, but not whole libraries.
No, I take your point there, Alex, but I would just I would go back to Adam's point that they really needed to do a Hulu. They really should have come out, stop the fighting, get together, make a Hulu. I mean, the states themselves can only really support Hulu and Netflix. I don't know why anyone thought that our population could support, the strange smorgasbord of choice we have right now.
So, Adam, I already own Highlander on VHS, on DVD, on Blu-ray, and now I'm going to have to buy it on Ultra HD Blu-ray. Is that right?
Yes, you are. It's an obligation. We've had Ultra HD television for a few years. We've had access to Ultra HD Netflix for a while, if your broadband is fast enough. And now, finally, the Ultra HD Blu-ray disc players are coming to Australia. So as Blu-ray was the successor to DVD, Ultra HD Blu-ray is the successor to Blu-ray. It's been out in the US for a little while. We've been waiting for some announcements here. Panasonic has come out and announced the first Ultra HD Blu-ray player for Australia, but it won't hit the shelves until September, and I know that some other vendors are making announcements in the next couple of weeks, so theirs might actually hit the shelves first. The other thing is the Panasonic one is looking pretty damn expensive. I think it costs £600 in the UK, which means it's likely to cost north of $1,000 here, and that's a lot of money in my book.
That really feels like your video file product. It feels to me like it could well be the video disc for the 21st century in a way, especially as we've kind of shifted to streaming. But at the same time, I guess the biggest complaint I've had against 4K TVs for the past couple of years is, the little loops that they show in stores look great, but where's the content? And I suppose this is the content, isn't it?
Yeah. So, Peter, are you a streaming man or a disc man?
I have never bought a Blu-ray, so I don't even think I'm definitely not the demographic for this device. I mean, and I am a massive movie nerd. Like I have a lot of movies in my collection right now, but it's all via Plex. It's all digital files. So I know I should. I've been tempted to maybe go out and buy The Force Awakens as my very first Blu-ray. I think that's, something that probably should be done. But I don't know. I just I used to love all of the special features
dies.
and no, but I used to, as long as BB-8 it makes it through, I'm fine. But I used to love all of that stuff. I used to love the special commentaries and all of those things. But it just felt like that felt like a slice of time, and it's just gone now. Like it's not just the fact that we all moved to digital. It's just that I don't have time in my life to sit down and listen to a commentary track of a movie I love.
For me, it's about picture quality, though. Streaming never looks as good as a disc. It's not just about resolution. There's more to picture quality than resolution. It's about bit rates. It's about contrast, detail in the shadows. Even a 1080p stream from somewhere like iTunes or whatever, a movie, does not look as good as the Blu-ray disc. I have not yet had a chance.
For an awful lot of us, it's also about buffering, though, of course, as well.
Yes, yeah. But so even if you have got the bandwidth to do it, it does not look as good. I have looked at Ultra HD streaming from Netflix, and it looks pretty damn good. In the next couple of days, I'm checking out the Panasonic Ultra HD Blu-ray players. I've got myself a copy of The Martian. I have not yet had a chance to compare Ultra HD streaming from Netflix against Ultra HD content from disc, but I'm happy to bet that if you've got a big television and an eye for detail, that the disc will look better. So people like me who are fussy and who are annoying to sit with when watching television, if the picture quality is not perfect because they bitch about it, are always probably going to lean towards discs.
Once again, that just about wraps it up for another episode of Vertical Hold. Remember, if you've got any comments, hit us up in the comments section on YouTube, via Twitter, or the Facebook Vertical Hold page. Thanks to Peter for joining us this week.
Thank you, lads.
And thanks for listening, and remember, if you like what you hear, hit that subscribe button.